a formal hello. We didn't get to do a formal start and hello to the meeting. We just had Councilmember Nithya from CD District 4 speak to us, but we should actually do the actual call to order for the meeting. As we normally do, I want to start off with a land acknowledgement and some inclusivity language. So if that's okay, Max, may I go ahead and speak?
Please.
All right. So welcome. Before we get started, I'll read some accountability language to help ground us in our commitment to being an actively safe space. This is a reminder that not everyone in this meeting exists within the gender binary, and so each of us needs to hold ourselves and others accountable to honoring and uplifting the existences of all gender expansive humans. Please use gender neutral language when referring to the group. For instance, everyone, folks, friends, members are all great options. Gendered language, such as brothers and sisters or ladies and gentlemen, are not inclusive of the community that we represent. We ask ourselves and each other to remember to never assume anyone's gender. Additionally, if we don't know someone's pronouns, we can either share our own pronouns and ask for theirs, or use gender neutral language. If one of us does make a misstep or hears someone accidentally misgender someone, please gently make a correction and move forward. It's important that we make the space an example for all political spaces. We are committed to creating and sustaining an actively safe space for underrepresented voices. And so joining the Alliance or attending as a member of the public, we ask that you join us in our commitment to active inclusivity. Our hope is that we never let agendas, structure, or end goals become more precious than the humans that we are meant to represent and uplift. Furthermore, we acknowledge that Los Angeles is located on Chumash, Tongva, and Kizh land, and the indigenous peoples and traditional caretakers of these regions. Furthermore, we recognize the continuing struggles of indigenous folks against colonialism, erasure, and non-indigenous residents who benefit from the impact of settler colonialism. All right, and with that, Max, do you want to go ahead and should we go ahead and do a roll call?
Yeah, I'll go really quick through this. Please make sure you unmute and say that you are here when I call your name. Adriana was here, no?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll come back. Andy, Ansley, Arden, Ben, Bindu.
Bindu Verghese is present.
Thank you, Bindu. Carol Ann, excuse me. Casey, Cecilia, Cher, Chloe Sprague.
Yes.
Welcome, Chloe. Chloe Ziegler.
Oh, the other Chloe. This is Chloe Ziegler. Sorry. I always forget there are two Chloes. Chloe
There's
Renee.
3 of them.
Oh.
Chloe Rivas.
Oh,
Sorry, I will be more clear in future with saying both names. Let's see, Claire Gordon.
Here.
Welcome. Claire Savage. Daniel Perez.
Oh,
Unfortunately not. Danny Deza. Drew. Ebsy. Sorry, did I? Aaron Piper. Ava Maria. Lindsay. Greg. Hayden.
Present.
Jamie York.
I'm here too.
Thank you, Adriana.
Hi, I'm here.
Thank you, Jamie.
Jamie.
Jamie Penn. Jared Bogda. Jeffrey Maloney. Jer Adrienne. Camille Benoit. Katie Halstead. Lauren.
See.
Lynn.
Here.
Thank you. Maybe is here.
Present.
Thank you. Margaret Irwin. Max Kirkham, I am here. Milton. Nick Marconi. Nisha.
I'm here.
Thank you, Nisha. Olga Lexel. Rachel Rose Lucky. Randall. Sarah Stefan. Autumn. Spencer. Steve. Tamika. Tarek. Terry. Terry, I see the nameplate. Okay, we'll just say.
Present.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Tom, Tyler, Xanthi, Julie, Sharon, Bing, Tao, Diana, Tran. I see the name.
Hi. Hi,
Hi,
right here.
Diana.
Sorry.
Thank
I was
you.
having
No,
difficulties.
no worries. Jeffrey, Top, Q, Casey Banks, Matt Harrington, Raheem Dawson, and Merle Shrievman. Nope. Okay, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I count 13, which is 13, which is a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Max. Cool. So we already did item number 3, which was our report from Councilmember Nithya from CD4. So we'll move on to item number 4, which is general public comment on non-agenda items. Those wishing to make a general public comment can either raise their hand or dial *9 if you are calling in by phone. Do we have anybody here who wants to make any public comments? I see a couple of hands raised. I didn't see the order, so I'll just say it in the order that I see, which is Steve Johnson.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here. My name is Steve Johnson. I'm a council member candidate for District 13. I strongly believe in clean, safe neighborhoods. I live here in Atwater Village with my husband, Brian, and our rescue dog, Quinn. And quite just to get to the chase of it, to cut to the chase, I threw my hat in the ring. I want to serve. There's a gap in leadership with ethics, as evidenced from last week's indictment with one of our council members. So this is why I'm running. It's the main reason. And I think without accountability, how can we improve homelessness? How can we affect public safety? How can we reimagine these things if things aren't done with integrity? So I asked for your vote on June 7th, and I've also posted my website. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. Adriana.
I just wanted to make some comments as to the recent resignations. I wanted to say thank you very much to Daniel Perez for all of his wonderful service to the community in addition to the Alliance. I know that I'm new to the Alliance, but I'm certainly not new to Daniel's fabulous organizing skills, especially at the Congress of Neighborhoods and in his neighborhood councils, including Delray. And I also wanted to say thank you very much for Danny Deza. I got notice that he also resigned in addition to, not from the Alliance, I'm hoping, but just taking a step back. We all are, you know, Wonder Women and men and others and they and thems, and saying with love and compassion to all that I appreciate all they do for the community. And I certainly look forward to hearing about their wonderful endeavors and still being a part of the Alliance as well. And also with I believe there's a couple of other individuals who are taking a break, but nonetheless, I want to encourage others to follow in their footsteps, see what they can accomplish here, encourage them to step up and know that this is a safe space. I know I was welcomed my first meeting. I've never regretted coming out a little late in life, and better late than never, I say. And thank you so much for making me welcome.
Thank you so much, Adriana. And I also wanted to extend that thank you also to Terry. Terry did a lot of work for the DEIC committee, or the DEI committee, and so we also have an opening in that committee as well. We are going to be talking about this a little bit later on in the agenda, so we'll go a little bit more into details at that point, just in terms of the openings that we have and for anybody who's interested in filling those positions. Hayden.
Just wanted to let everybody in the Alliance know, which I'm sure some members know, maybe you might know, that December 1st through the 4th in Washington, D.C. will be the International LGBTQ Leaders Conference with elected officials, and that's a part of the Victory Institute. I will be going. There will be senators, Congress members, state officials, as well as neighborhood council members that will be joining that conference.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hayden. And hopefully you'll give us a full detailed report whenever you return from DC. All right. So any other public comment before we move on? Not seeing any. So we'll go to the next item on the agenda, which is item number 5, administrative items. So letter A, Alliance membership. So this is the part of the meeting where we accept appointments for new members of the Alliance, whether they be folks who have been appointed through neighborhood councils, or if you're somebody who just wants to self-declare yourself as a member. So we'll start with letter or number 1, which is appointment of NC liaisons. So is there anybody who is a new person in the Alliance who was appointed by their neighborhood council? I see
Information.
Yes, Lauren.
So Tarek was appointed, as was another person. Do you need him to tell you that, or can I report that?
You know, that's a good question. I think the other person was Merle.
Yeah.
Max, what do you think?
Technically they are, according to per our bylaws, they are members already of the Alliance, and we have added them to both the roster and to the mailing list. I think in the past we have done just like a pro forma motion to accept them, and I think it would be, I mean, it's up to the, I don't think we have we haven't yet done a motion to accept someone formally who wasn't at a meeting. It doesn't mean we can't do it, we just haven't before.
Yeah, and this, as a further point of information, this came about because we received a letter, or an email rather, saying that
from the chair of West Hills Neighborhood Council,
from Shar, saying that Tarek and Merle were appointed. So I don't know, we could, make a motion to appoint them, or we could wait until they're here.
Well, if I may,
I think we did a
Tarek's
motion last
already been
time for
appointed,
Tarek. Yeah.
and we could just change his status, is really what I'm trying to get at. Because he was self-declared before, and now he's actually officially been appointed.
Okay.
So it would just be a status change.
It's changed. I just did it.
So do we just want to leave it at that, and then at our next meeting, if Merle's present, then we can formally induct Merle? This all came about in the last week, so they just may have not had enough time to prepare for this particular meeting. So, all right, I see Nisha, your hand is up.
Hello. Firstly, apologies, I haven't made it to a few meetings, but I'm here and I'm excited to be here and see all your faces. So the D-Link has asked me to be the official D-Link liaison. I have tried filling out the form, and the drop-down menu under liaison does not, I'm not seeing LGBTQ Alliance. I don't know. I'm seeing nods.
Sorry, maybe, would you mind if I jumped in here?
Yeah, please.
So there's a difference between liaisons that the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment puts together and alliances. So although we call people who are appointed to our alliance liaisons, it's not a liaison as Dunn calls it. So you wouldn't find it under that drop-down link on the Dunn website. Has D-Link, which I think that's the downtown LA Neighborhood Council, have they moved officially to appoint you, or has the president appointed you officially?
The president appointed me, but she also is a new president. So it could be,
a lot of I know in the Greater Wilshire Neighborhood Council where our president just appoints and doesn't necessarily need board approval. So if your president has appointed you, then I will change your status to appointed, because you are already a member. We have you listed as a declared member.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll let her know then.
Cool.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Nisha. Great to see you.
You too.
I see Chloe. Go ahead.
I think Diana was before me.
Okay. Thanks, Chloe. Diana, go ahead.
Hello. So I'm from the Lincoln Heights Neighborhood Council. I asked to be the liaison. My president was all, yeah, sure. So I am now. Hooray. And I do meetings. I mean, I like report like during the liaison reporting, the committee reporting stuff. And the president asked about the LGBT thing, the LGBT neighborhood council, and people seemed really interested. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have anything to report because I reported it in our other meeting or after the, because we only have meetings once a month, and my neighborhood council has meetings every 2 months. I mean, every 2 weeks. So yeah, next time I'll report.
Wonderful. Well, welcome, Diana. We're happy to have you. Part of our inductee process is we formally have everybody vote to, formally induct every person into the general membership. So I don't think anybody's gonna deny, but we'll do that in just a moment. I just want to make sure there's nobody else before we officially do that. Chloe, your hand is raised. Was that from before or is that new?
No, that is to say that maybe we can discuss that on that exec Sunday, but I'm a little dismayed that my Daniel left because he was really my co-chair and I was just a tiny little chair. And
Perhaps
he
we'll talk about this during the
yeah, for the
agenda section.
recruitment. Yeah. Oh, it's on the agenda, not for the secretary, but for the recruitment committee.
Well, we can talk about it during the whole restructuring, future of the alliance,
Okay.
but
All right. Okay.
All
sorry,
right.
maybe I don't mean to step on you.
No, that's quite all right. So, so as far as I know, basically we are voting to induct Diana and then also change Nisha from self-declared to NC appointed. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe Diana was appointed as a declared member last time, so we're also changing her status as well.
So essentially just changing both Diana and Nisha from declared members to NC appointed members of the LGBTQ Alliance. Can I get a second?
I will second. Chloe will second.
You
were going to see if there's anyone who wants to declare, and we'll do it all in one big motion.
For sure. Yeah. Is there anybody else here who was not appointed by an NC who wants to self-declare and become a part of the Alliance? Chloe, is your hand up from before?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Oh.
All right, cool. I'm not seeing any hands. So any public comments? Should we go ahead and take a vote?
I have just a question. Nisha, can you confirm your last name if you're comfortable giving it for us?
Sure, Parek, and I can drop that in the chat if you need.
Please do, thank you.
Okay, will do. I will.
Just for the record, thank you.
All right, well, I think for this we can go ahead and just do a voice vote. So all in favor of inducting Nisha and Diana into the Alliance as NC appointed members, say aye.
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 Any objections? Hearing none. All right, welcome to the Alliance again. All right, so we'll go ahead and we'll move on to item number 5B, which is announcement of elections. So on here we have Alliance Secretary. So our former secretary, Daniel Perez, did step down. Daniel did a lot of great work for the Alliance, and he has stepped down. He's got a lot of other things going on. So Max and I, we wanted to kind of just make an announcement about this position today. We didn't necessarily want to do an election for this position because we wanted to give people a moment to think about, is this something that you want to do? Do you know somebody else who might be good at this? And just kind of throw it out there. And hopefully this is something that we can vote on at our next meeting. But Max, do you have anything that you'd like to add about this particular position?
I think it's important, just that the secretary is a really vital role for any organization. I think anyone who's served on a neighborhood council will know just how important the role of secretary is. And Daniel did do a lot of great work. And I think what I would just echo maybe's call for our members to really stand up. And I would just add to that, you wouldn't be asked to take on something without support. We will definitely be here to help you to work through it and to share the burden of it as well. So just please, if you feel like you might want to serve, then serve.
And I just wanted to re-stress what Max said, like, it's a very vital position within the Alliance, and, we can pick up the slack for a while, but, as you all know, we're all volunteers. Nobody's getting paid. We're doing a lot of work, and we just want to, give everybody else a leadership opportunity. This is a great position for some. It's not a great position for everybody, but I guarantee you there is somebody in this conversation, there is somebody in this Alliance already who would be perfect for this. And if you feel like that's you, feel free to reach out to Max or I and, talk about it. And, or if you think somebody else who's good at it, let us know, because, we'd love to be able to fill this position as soon as possible, because it is a big position. And, we're disappointed to see Daniel go. And, we'll see who's going to fill his shoes. Lauren, I see your hands raised.
I just want to reiterate maybe more directly what you guys are saying. Look, we started this alliance to make sure that our queer siblings were duly represented, respected, and appreciated within the neighborhood council system and beyond. To do that work effectively, it requires active, not passive membership. And whether or not you're a volunteer or whether or not you just signed up to show solidarity, at the end of the day, whatever success we can achieve on behalf of our communities, plural, means that we all have to contribute, all of us. This mighty endeavor of ours cannot succeed if people are just comfortable showing up at meetings once in a while and not doing the work. No civil rights movement was ever achieved by passive membership. So even if you think you can't do it or you're interested in something else, it is imperative that everybody on this call find a way to contribute sweat equity to this effort. Right? We don't want to let each other down. So pick your lane and drive like crazy, but you can't be a passenger here. You really can't. The success of this depends on all of us at our respective wheels. So I will stop. It's Sunday. That's why I am preaching.
Thank you, Lauren. And just to further add to what Lauren said, if you decide you want to take on this role or another position, we have a couple of committee chairs open right now. So if you want to take it, this is not a lifelong position. Our positions are for a year. Take it on for a year, see if you like it, get help from your peers. Let's make this like a group effort. And if you don't like it, don't run for it again next year. But, I think it's important for us to let everyone know that we really need other folks to step up and help and make this a collaborative effort if we're going to make things happen. And I think that's really the point of everyone wanting to be involved in this organization, is we want to see things happen. And yeah, so I guess it's us asking for help on an executive level and help asking for other people to hopefully step up into a leadership position. And you don't have to give an answer right now, but think about it. If you have any questions, again, feel free to reach out to any of us on the executive committee, email us, text us, and we'll bring this up again at our next meeting. Does anybody else have any questions or comments about?
I think, if you don't mind my saying, I think we're starting to drift into what our next conversation is going to be about anyway. So it might be best for us to kind of just jump into that.
Absolutely. Actually, Max, do you want to take the next item?
Sure. If I've been taking minutes in our minutes doc. If I'm happy to lead this conversation, I just can't take notes. And
also, Max, we have the next item is actually item 6, which is old business.
Oh, yes.
The item you were referring to is item 7, which is discussion about the future.
The new business, yeah, discussion of future airlines. Yes, let me talk about this old business item last month. And I just want to be really quick about this. We talked about this article that had come up in the LA Times about attacks on transgender women in MacArthur Park, as well as just attacks in general. We did get a response from Councilmember Cedillo's office that was pretty lengthy. If you look in the agenda, there is a documents folder and there's a hyperlink right at the in this that says here, where it says you can find it in the meetings document folder here. And at that link, you can read the response from Councilmember Cedillo's office about, in reference to this item. If there's anything else that members would like us to do in regards to this, I think they had a pretty good answer, pretty satisfying answer. Obviously, this is MacArthur Park is a problem on a whole different scale beyond just this, but I do feel like they've done some good work in this particular regard.
Max, do you want to open up this item for discussion, or
Yeah,
do you want?
I think if anyone has anything pressing, we could discuss it briefly. But I think it might be best for us to perhaps people can reach out to us offline, or we can continue this discussion later, unless anyone has anything pressing they want to talk about.
I have something I want to add to this conversation.
Please.
I think this, the conversation specifically has to deal with attacks on trans people and women in MacArthur Park. And I'm sure many of you know that just about a week or two ago, MacArthur Park was actually a portion of it was closed, and many unhoused people who were living at the park were evicted. It was a very similar scenario to what happened at Echo Park Lake, very similar to what happened at Venice Beach. And unfortunately, I think that this is going to be the new prototype, the new model for how the city handles eviction on a mass level when it comes to a park or, a very large encampment. And I was really disappointed with how the process went about. I will say, as somebody who was at the Echo Park Lake eviction, it was not as violent in terms of police presence. But what I will say, I was disappointed that the park was closing, and I was there the night that it was closing, a few hours before the official 10:30 closure time. And there were still so many people there that were actually wanting to get into housing, and there were not enough units available. That last night at MacArthur Park, there were only about 50 units available. Laza was there, Path was there, trying to get these last folks into housing if they wanted it. And I will say not everybody wanted it, and that's their prerogative. But for me, what was disappointing was that I interacted and met people who wanted to get into housing, who there just wasn't a room, or, just sit here and wait for a minute, sit for a few minutes, wait. And it just seemed like a lot of broken promises. And, the very first person that I spoke with was a trans person. And, I think it speaks to, again, the number of unhoused trans people that are in our city. And here was this, person who wanted to get into housing. I waited with them for over a half hour, and nobody was able to give them any sort of answers. I had to leave at that point. And fortunately, they got in touch with me a couple of days later, and they were eventually able to get into housing. And, it's interesting. They got set up in a hotel room through Project Room Key in downtown Los Angeles. And they reached out to me and said, "Oh, I got a room. Can you bring some groceries?" I was able to do a little crowdfunding. We brought a whole load of groceries. But even when I went, it was such a, I tried calling the hotel to say, "Hey, I have a friend who's staying at the hotel. She is a new resident. She told me to contact the hotel when I get there so I could drop off some groceries." And they were like, "Oh, well, we can't let you talk to the room. There's no, nobody can talk to any residents." Okay, well, I have groceries. I'm just trying to drop off groceries. The whole thing was such a process. And even when I finally arrived and I was trying to get in touch with this person, it was just a nightmare scenario. The person who I met ended up being misgendered over and over. I literally said, "My friend Sabrina, who's a trans person," and then they still continue to misgender this person. So the whole thing was, it was very carceral. There was a lot of indignity involved, and it was just, it seemed like more trouble than it's worth. And for me, it made me realize, oh, if I was in this situation, I understand why people don't want to have to deal with these kinds of obstacles and barriers when it comes to just getting temporary housing. Sorry, I digress. Lauren.
Well, I don't think that's a digression. I think this is an important part of the discussion, maybe not Max's item, but the mythology that there are all these available units and that people are just prefer a homeless lifestyle, and ignoring the fact that A, there aren't enough housing units, B, Project Roomkey is temporary. So no one has been given permanent supportive housing. And lastly, we have a paucity of shelters. I can only think of one actually, and it's full, that deal with LGBTQ folk. So the very real fears about not just being misgendered, but being a target for abuse exists not just in MacArthur Park, but within the housing of the unhoused. You know, the episode for me, this is an editorial comment, it seems to be just to get them out of sight so that housed people, especially privileged white housed people, don't have to see them or explain their existence to their children. And lastly, I can confirm, having interviewed several people who were in Project Roomkey in the last year, the carceral nature of that program. You don't get a key, which is also the same with any of the tiny houses. You don't get any key. You are subject to room searches whenever they want. You know, they knock on the door, they enter, and you are supposed to stay in your room for the balance of the day and not interact with other unhoused people or the outside. As we're talking about this issue with people elsewhere, it's really important to stress that these people are in a kind of custody, having done nothing except be poor.
Thank you, Lauren, and I agree with you 100%. I was just talking with Max. This is a really important item. I would ask that we move this to our next agenda. So this is kind of an ongoing discussion. Primarily because our next item is, well, not that this is more important, but we have an important item coming up as it pertains to the Alliance. Our next item is item 7, new business, which is discussion on the future of the Alliance. So, you know, this Alliance has been it's been around for more than a year now. When we started this Alliance, you know, nobody was planning on a pandemic happening. You know, we met several times. We were starting to really have a lot of momentum. And then the pandemic happened and we kind of moved to this online format. And we've been here ever since. And, you know, I'm grateful and glad that we have carried on, you know, in this format. But, you know, I think that there's been a lot of discussion on an executive committee level, amongst general membership folks, amongst everyone about what does this Alliance want to do? You know, do we just want to meet every month and have meetings, or do we want to actually, you know, what are our goals and visions for how this Alliance becomes an influential Alliance, how we actually use our position as a citywide group to try to influence city legislation, to try to stand up for LGBTQ folks all across the city. And, you know, I think a lot of people have different ideas about how this Alliance should move forward. So basically, we wanted to use this time to talk to everybody and see what your ideas are, how you think this could be an improved Alliance, how you think everybody could, you know, contribute, what you think that we should do. You know, this is kind of a listening and responding session. As you can see on the agenda, there's a lot of different bullet points, you know, growth and sense of ownership, purpose and enthusiasm, Alliance growth and diversification, balancing membership responsibilities and volunteer expectations, et cetera, et cetera. So I kind of just wanted to open up the floor and see if anybody here has any initial thoughts, any initial ideas, you know, kind of what you envision the Alliance doing, because we really, as a group that is not a neighborhood council, we actually have more
Latitude.
wiggle room to do what we
Yeah.
want to do. And I think that we should use that to our advantage.
I
Go
just,
ahead, Matt.
if I might say so before we jump in, and I see Jamie does have, I don't want to misgender, I want to say I'll say their hand raised just to be safe. I just want to make sure that we all understand that this is our alliance, right? If there's any time that members are having issues or are not happy with something, if you don't like or if there's an issue with a guest speaker that we have, or an event that we're putting on, or a lack of preparation or planning, or if you see some sort of something lacking, that you really take that responsibility and that effort to come to an officer, to me, or maybe, or to Lauren, or to another executive committee member, because we're kind of sitting here waiting and really excited when members reach out to us. So as we come into this discussion tonight, I really do want everyone here to kind of take that ownership that this is your alliance. This is all of our alliance. And we really are kind of looking forward to having a really hopefully robust discussion tonight. Maybe.
Thank you, Max. And I agree with everything you said. Jamie, I see your hands raised. Do you want to add to that or speak about something?
Yeah, I mean, I got connected with y'all when the stuff with Spencer was happening. And so I do see, like, as being part of like a neighborhood council alliance, I think that working on issues that attempt to fix done and how the varying quality of spaces it is to be an LGBT person on a neighborhood council is definitely something that I would be interested in. And then also just legislatively advising, because like I know, there was that the diversity and equity inclusion one, and I know that they went to the LGBT center, but what they didn't do was go to trans members of neighborhood councils to ask them what they wanted for that particular amendment. So just trying the two things that like I do think make a lot of sense, and I think within the purview of the things that we're already doing, is trying to be really active on the council files and trying to sort of inform them or write white papers or make commentary or what have you, and then also just kind of forcing Dunn to do better. I will be nice and say to do better. That's my two things that I think make a lot of sense, even though there is a much broader, wider thing that I think that we can be focusing on. It's just that these are the ones that we know that everybody who's here has experience with and has familiarity with, and that's the council file, and that's being involved in a neighborhood council.
Thank you, Jamie. And, just to add to that, I'm really glad that we were able to connect through, the situation that happened. That's how we met, was when, we got connected through what was happening through your neighborhood council, which was, a really unfortunate situation. But I feel like the alliance responded to that. And I feel like the alliance as a whole responded, but also individual members responded. And I think that that's kind of the beauty of this alliance, is that we can do things as a group, but also anything that's brought to the alliance, any of us has the ability to take action on that, whether that be going to a neighborhood council meeting and saying, hey, I don't think this is right, or hey, you should do this to make this more inclusive. So, there's this opportunity to do things as individuals through this alliance, but also collectively through the alliance. And for me, one of the things that I envisioned the alliance, being in part at least, is, a watchdog organization, and making sure that there is, that we're not seeing homophobia and transphobia in neighborhood councils across the city. There's 99 neighborhood councils. I think, unfortunately, there's going to be, some wrongdoing in some of those 99 neighborhood councils. So I think that's part of what I envision this alliance being. So, I'm curious to hear what everybody else thinks, they envision the alliance being. I also envision it being an organization where we help to bring community impact statements to neighborhood councils to then bring to City Hall. That's another idea of how the alliance could be. and again, curious to hear what everybody else thinks. Do you have any ideas or visions for what you would like to see this alliance be? Anyone?
Maybe if I could just jump in, I really piggyback on what you said. Just a quick story. I was placed on a neighborhood council in an adjacent area because I was working in homelessness. And I'm not saying there was homophobia and race. I mean, I'm not sure, but a lot of weird shit was happening on that committee because I didn't look like a lot of the people in that community, hands down. And so I really like your idea about being I can't think of a better word than watchdog, but I think in all of our respective neighborhoods, if we could just be mindful of like, what's the culture there? Is it inclusive? Even if it's a particularly one demographic area, we exist in every entity, right? So are we represented? Are we encouraged? So anyway, I'm kind of rambling, but I really like the watchdog aspect of however you articulate that. Like, let's have each other's backs on the general neighborhood councils to make sure that things are on the up and up.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. And, my idea is not to just have it be a watchdog, but that be an element of what the alliance is. We hear about something, we take action on it. And that's just, again, my personal idea of part of what I would like to see this alliance doing. I see a couple of other hands raised. Hayden, I think you were next.
Yeah, thank you, maybe. Thank you, Max. I'm kind of in agreement with you, maybe, that, when we started this back in 2019, we were trying to find a vision for the alliance. And now that we're at a place now where we can really define what the alliance is and what our mission should be, I'm in agreement that we should take more of an active approach, like Controller Ron Galpin does, is he creates more transparency throughout the city. So maybe we can be that alliance that creates more transparency throughout the neighborhood council system. If we're seeing, issues pressing towards the LGBTQ community or board members or stakeholders within the neighborhood council system, that we are being present at those, addressing those issues, bringing those to the city's attention, whether it's the city attorney's office, neighborhood councils, working with neighborhood council members to say, look, these are issues going on within your district. Can somebody from your office help and take a stance and try to figure this out? And, as the renter representative for Greater Wilshire, a lot of times board members not aware of everything that's going on throughout the city. So, I brought an anti-tenant harassment ordinance that Nithya Raman was mentioning today to the neighborhood council. And, by us paying attention to what's going on throughout City Hall, seeing what issues might be addressing the LGBTQ community, that we can bring those to neighborhood councils that might not be aware of those. So like you said, they can create a community impact statement. We can get people together to create personal statements to that council file. So really being that voice and that navigation and that liaison between the city and neighborhood councils is I'm in complete agreement.
Thank you so much. And, I appreciate that a lot of people have agreed with, some of these ideas that I've put forth. I think a lot of us are kind of have this idea of what we envision, but we can't necessarily articulate it perfectly because it is still a work in progress. I will say something though, I feel like I said something at our executive committee meeting a couple of weeks ago where I said, this isn't a club. But you know what? I actually disagree with that statement. This is a club. And you know what? I think that part of what I have enjoyed about being a part of this group is getting to know everybody. And I think that, it's been weird because it's been mostly in an online context. But, I think the more that we all get to know each other, and especially once we start to move into an in-person platform again, we're going to feel closer to each other and feel more trusting of each other and get to know each other better and be able to collaborate better with one another, because I think that we're all coming from our different neighborhood councils, our different backgrounds, and it's hard to get to know somebody on a Zoom platform. I think we have an idea of who everybody is, but not really. So I'm looking forward to when we can start, doing our in-person meetings again. I know that's something that we recently discussed at our last executive committee meeting was, eventually moving back into an in-person scenario, or hopefully doing a hybrid scenario where there's, people who want to come in via Zoom can do that. We can also meet in person. So anyway, sorry, I'm going on and on. Nisha, I see your hand is raised.
Hello. So recently at the most recent Downtown LA Neighborhood Council board meeting, there was a letter that some folks had put forward to the rest of the council to vote on. And the letter was basically a request to the city that the city provide more police officers to come downtown and walk the streets and patrol the streets. In the conversation that occurred between board members about this letter, a board member who identifies as LGBT pushed back on some folks who were kind of raising concerns about additional police in the streets and how that may not necessarily result in the type of safety folks were seeking. And there was pushback about how police have protected LGBT folks, and that's a reason for wanting more police in the streets. So obviously this is a contested matter, and I'm sure there are many such contested issues that relate to the experience of being LGBT. I attempted to share my experience as an LGBT femme of color, and how my experiences with the police was not one of safety. And that was sort of disregarded. So where I'm going with this story is to add more support to what you're suggesting, maybe with a different nuance, which is, or like, I guess another nuance, which is in terms of being watchdogs. A way that could be helpful is if, for example, the Alliance had position statements, right? Like, what is the Alliance's position on police in the streets, and how that what is the Alliance's position on police in the streets as relates to the LGBT community? What is the Alliance's position on homelessness as an issue, and how to help, especially LGBTQ community members, youth, whoever experiencing, who don't have housing? What is the Alliance's position on whatever other, right? Like, I think probably we can all think of like at least a handful of issues that come up in the NCs all the time, where somebody might try to be like using LGBTQ identity as something to push forward an agenda. So maybe one thing to do is for the Alliance to say, this is our official position on some of these things, and we can go forth to the neighborhood councils, those of us who are on the different neighborhood councils, or somehow circulate these through the neighborhood council. So some of these types of positions that are used to advocate for things that maybe the Alliance isn't in favor of are cut off because the Alliance has put forward an official position. So that's one idea. And I also just wanted to lift up what Councilmember Rahman was saying of, maybe take a project, like if the Alliance took on a project, right? Like expanding, like the one that came up earlier was like expanding LGBT services for unhoused LGBT youth outside of Hollywood. I'm not saying that should be necessarily the issue, but like maybe if there was like a project, right, with like everybody just like, for this year, we're all gonna go ham on this one project. That might be a way to maximize like the smaller size of the group to really focus on one thing, as opposed to, because it's harder when it's a volunteer board and everybody has all their millions of other things that you're doing, and you have like one sort of thing that you're tasked with. Or I'll tell you, like, it does feel overwhelmed. I'm pretty swamped with work, and I've had some personal life stuff this year, and the idea of like being the one person or like one of two people that's responsible for a project is overwhelming for me personally. And I don't know if others feel that way. So maybe a way to address that is to say, okay, we're going to all jump in on a project together until we've built out like a bigger community of us where it's easier to outsource these smaller things. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nisha. And I agree with a lot of what you had to say. especially, you know, there was something that you brought up that we talked a little bit about at our last executive committee meeting, which was making sure that, you know, this is a safe space for every person who wants to engage in this alliance. You know, we had talked about how, you know, we all come from different backgrounds. Something that we mostly share is either a queerness to some degree or an allyship to that. But we have so many other different parts to us that make us different. And I think because of it, there is, I would love to see some uniform ideas and positions on certain things. And even as you had mentioned, Nisha, you know, the idea of police and even having police at our alliance meetings is something that we've been kind of in discussion about over the past several months, with, you know, trying to create a subcommittee to discuss this idea. And so I think I would love to see that. And I think that's like something that I would love to, I'd love to see that we continue the conversation about that, because it's a complex one and we're not all in agreement on everything, but I think we are on a lot of things. So anyways, I see a few other hands raised. Chloe.
Yes, hi, again. I just wanted to piggyback on what you said maybe about the club, and just say that one of the criticisms that I heard, and that maybe has had some people leave us, unfortunately, is that they had this notion that the alliance meetings and our format was too similar to NC's, and that people already had enough Zoom, in parentheses, or non-Zoom meetings with NC's, and that format has become a little tiresome. And that, yes, we need to work with the city. Yes, you know, Hayden's committee and other people's committees are super important. We need to be watchdogs in an official manner, in a way, as, you know, part of the city structure, political structure. But also what other people have suggested is communication. And I like what Nisha was saying. She was talking again about a more political way of communicating, but I think we should also tell personal stories. And I was talking about a vocabulary, you know, how many times a week do I hear people saying, wait, cisgender, what does that mean already? And it's a word that is used all the time, but people are still confused. And I think that communicating non-political, everything's political, but communicating things that are more personal and using our alliance to communicate with people through the NCs and not only with CISs and things like that is also very important. And that's where, you know, maybe the idea of being more like a club, I think we should also explore that. That's what I wanted to say. And also what I said at the exec meeting is that having a practical goal, and what Nisha says is absolutely fantastic. Having a practical project will center us and will get us more people, like Nithya was saying, will get people to us so that we can act. So we're not only talking, but we're doing things. That's my comment. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chloe. No, amazing comment. And I agree with you. Hayden, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, you know, as we were speaking, just kind of wanted to go back on a couple things too. You know, early on in the alliance, when we were meeting in person, there was a lot more livelihood, a lot more vibrance within the alliance. So that's my hope when we get back together again. But what we did over the summer when we got together at the park, you know, even looking at things like that, you know, maybe going along with the whole club thought is where we come where it's not an alliance, you know, per se agenda item, but we come together maybe once a quarter or something. We get together, do an activity or something. So it's more than just work. It's an actual mission, and we all have commonalities and differences coming together and working together and like you said, getting to know each other outside of, you know, these meetings would be great. It really connects us more and really engages us a lot more, because that's the one thing that, like you said, when we got to Zoom, we really lost that connection. Yeah, we had more people attending Zoom, but we lost that in-person connection, what we really had meeting together. And I hope we get to there again.
Great comments. Thank you, Hayden. I agree. Jong, hey.
Hey, Excuse me, sorry, about I wasn't ready to tell anybody to stop talking yet. Anyway, so I was just kind of thinking a lot of the same things that other people are saying. Just like I think would like to see us do more kind of like group initiatives where maybe we could come up with a position and then that's a position that we would take to the other neighborhood councils, for example. Like for example, I might like to see us do an initiative like where we try to get the inclusivity language read at all the meetings or something like that. And also trying to really actually be watchdogs and trying to keep up, especially with like the policing thing. I would really like us to see us have some kind of like ongoing discussion about how we can hold the police accountable for improved treatment of all people, but especially of LGBTQ plus people. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for.
And sorry, if you don't mind, maybe I just really want to take a moment, since Zhang just spoke, to really commend and thank Zhang, not only on behalf of maybe and myself, but on behalf of the whole alliance for really doing the work. Even though we really haven't gotten very far on it, you really have done a lot of great organizing work around trying to get to that answer for how the alliance is going to deal with the police and how to interact with the police. And it's really, thank you. You truly have served as a model of what all of us could be doing as members of the alliance.
That's very nice. Thank you very much. Happy to do as much as I can, or as little as I can. Just everything. It's all a team effort. Thank you.
Yes. No,
Can I
thank you so much,
ask,
John.
Sorry,
Go-
Matt, and can you specify, I don't know, John, is she on the ad hoc committee?
So Zhang is one of the co-chairs of the ad hoc committee on police relations, which was appointed many months ago now at this point, to try and answer the question of how will the alliance interact with the LAPD. If many of you might remember that we had a conversation at a previous meeting where we couldn't really come to a consensus on, are we going to have the LAPD come to a meeting? Are we going to interact with them at all? Are we going to invite them beforehand? Are we going to have a separate space? And so we set up this ad hoc committee. We had people join it, and we've kind of, the committee's met a few times. They've failed to meet a few times. We've kind of struggled, but it's not necessarily because people aren't doing the work. It's because it's a really difficult question, it turns out, for this alliance. And Zhang has just really stuck to it the entire way in trying to get us to that answer, even when it's been really difficult. So that's just what I was thanking them for.
Can I also please plug the survey really quick?
Yeah, of course. Do you want to put the link
please,
after you speak into the chat as well?
Yes, I will have to. Yeah, I'll have to grab it. Yes. So if we're trying to figure out how we can deal with holding the police accountable, and if we want to meet with them or not meet with them, and what that situation might look like. If you have just 5 minutes, please take some time to fill out the survey. There's a lot of opportunity for free response, but you are under no obligation to say anything extra if you do not want to feel like it. If you can just, everybody could just take a couple minutes to put in their answers, that would be very helpful for us deciding on a direction. I think only 3 people have done it so far. So yes, and I will drop that link into the chat now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. And I just wanted to add, I think that kind of highlights something we were talking about earlier, which is, yes, we are all queer or queer allies, but we don't agree upon everything. And this is sort of a prime example of how it's difficult to just be like, oh, the alliance is taking this position, because the alliance is actually made up of so many diverse people with diverse ideas and opinions. And this is exactly why we have tried to create these committees and subcommittees to try to tackle these issues. So if the idea of having police present or not present is something that you feel really strongly about, then please come to one of those committee meetings and have your voice be heard. And that's kind of what we're counting on, is people committing to doing the committee work, so that when we have these general membership meetings, that we can take the work that has been done in committee and sort of solidify it as a group together, you know? I see a couple more hands raised. Jamie?
Yeah, so one, I just want to really lift up what Maybe said about sending community impact statements that could be submitted to neighborhood councils to submit. I really, really like that. I found that, it's always easier when the work's sort of done for you to get people to consider doing these things, and we might be able to get a lot more activity on some of the relevant council files when you just make it as easy as possible for people to take your position. Two, I was also thinking, one of the things that bothers me about Department of Neighborhood Empowerment is the lack of ability to get sort of like resource documents. And two things that I was thinking that could be helpful, that could be developed and sent to various neighborhood councils and like go on the website. One, resources for LGBT Angelinos that could just sort of be like a one-stop shop for things that are useful. And I'm sure that between all of us, we probably have a lot of really good examples that we could put together. And then the other thing that I was thinking is that, like in my neighborhood council, there are a lot of very well-meaning people who I would not say are anti-LGBT, but they are uneducated. So maybe there's an education role for within neighborhood councils, like, putting something together that explains what cisgender is, explains what dead naming is, things like that. I actually think would be really helpful because you don't know what you don't know, and not everybody, there's a lot, in my case, like there's older people on our council, they don't have Twitter, like that's not where they're getting their news from, but they're open-minded, nice people. They just need to have it sort of easily accessible for them to be educated. And if they are, then they're more than happy to adopt those things. So those are two things that I think could be really helpful, as a resource sheet and like an education sheet.
Yeah, just to jump in, this is actually, Jamie, I really appreciate you saying that. I gave our recruitment presentation at a neighborhood council a few weeks ago, and actually had a comment from one of the neighborhood council board members who was an older woman. And, she said, I've been having these conversations with my kids who are, much younger. I had kids later in life. And they are telling me that I'm, the way I speak and the way I talk about things, and the way I refer to things, they're saying that I'm homophobic. And really, I'm not homophobic. The world has changed around me. I don't know what the new conversation is. I don't know what these new terms are. This is what I was taught. And she followed up by saying, and so thank you for doing this presentation. I'm going to come to LGBTQ Alliance meetings so that I can start to learn and start to change, because this is not, who I am or what I want to be. So, I thanked her for being comfortable enough to share that, in a public space like that. And then I really, I'm glad that you talk about that, because that is, I think, something that we really, it's a purpose people are already looking to us to fulfill.
Yes, I mean, I'm just going to be impolite and jump in, but that's what I'm trying to say is we need to use this tool that we have to talk to people, to tell them what's happening, because it's going so fast. I have a 26-year-old who keeps giving us grief, and it's very funny, but about all kinds of stuff. But it's great. Let's go with that movement. I mean, there's so many things changing and people want to learn.
Thank you, Chloe. I see Adriana with her hand raised, maybe.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, that was one of the more conservative Valley Alliance.
It was Adriana
neighborhood
was there
councils.
with me, yeah.
That's right. I've been working on them for about 60 to 90 days. The first time it was kind of unusual. They saw me as a unicorn. I'm sure, what's that? I've never seen one of those before. and then the second time was like, I'm not giving up. I'm still there. They pushed me off. The third time I went back and I just kept reminding them, hi, remember me? And then finally we just got that moment in the sun. And I'm so glad that they received it well, where they didn't lash out. because they were the most I actually asked Daniel at the time when he was still recruitment, give me the worst. If I can win them over, then everything else is downhill, because they're the pioneers. If they understand and you get comments like that, then that's why I'm in the alliance for, to change their mindset. It might not always change, but at least they'll be silent on the subject, which goes a lot farther than hate speech or disregard or disrespect. One of the things I'd like to see from the alliance moving forward is a little bit of both that's been said, already touched upon. An occasional in-person, maybe once a quarter meeting to be offered to get that reinvigoration, that re-energizing moment between us as a group. Possibly in the future have a retreat for teammates, co-chairs, executive officers, so that there's some collaboration there. Even as maybe it mentioned, we agree to disagree. We have to agree on procedure in terms of how the meeting should run, and also try to include the members so we have better retention. I don't see that as being an issue, but again, I'm recently here, and 3 resignations is a significant change, but people have changes in their lives too. And then finally, I'd like to mention that there should be some moment, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. And I know you used to do the social hour in advance to the meetings so that we can connect and find out who we are as individuals, or go round table as introductions and say that 1 or 2 token things that we, how was our day? What's our favorite color or something? So we get to know each other a little better. And other than that, I'm pleased as punch. Everything's moving great, I think. And I'm just happy go lucky that there's a choice and this alliance exists. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you so much. Does anybody else have any comments or responses to anything that has been brought up in this moment? This isn't necessarily an item for action, but rather, hopefully an ongoing discussion that we will take into consideration as an alliance as a whole. So, this is another item I would vote to hopefully move on to our next agenda, just so that people who weren't able to attend today can, give their 2 cents, and we can all, take these ideas home with us and think and reflect and figure out how we want to see this alliance move forward. Because I think this alliance has some really amazing opportunities to be an influential organization. I see a few more hands. I see Diana.
Hi. So we've been talking about a couple of heavy things, and got a couple of you guys a couple of you folks might be feeling down and all that. So I just want to give a little bit of hope. Okay, so I'm a minor, I'm a newer generation, and I just want to talk about my experiences real quick, just a quick little thing. So in my school, right, we have kids openly talking about their sexualities, romanticism, the gender identity and all that, and nobody really is what do you say it, homophobic or LGBT phobic in any way. Obviously there are some jokes thrown around, but they get because it's in a collaborative environment, people they laugh and make jokes back, but it's not in an insulting way, because they're all LGBT. And so I just wanted to let you guys know that I let you folks know that it's going, it's in the younger generation, we're doing pretty all right.
Thank you, Diana.
Thank you, Diana. No, and I agree, honestly, especially, this is a little off topic, but the whole thing that's going on with Netflix and Dave Chappelle, and there's a lot of talk about jokes when it comes to being queer, being gay, being trans. And, one thing that's bothered me is that people who are on one side of the Dave Chappelle argument are such that, oh, well, it's just a joke. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. Well, it's easy to say that when you're part of a community that's not being murdered, day in, day out because of who you are, for your transness. The idea that you should be able to joke about things. I agree. Like, I like to make jokes. I make jokes all the time. Of course, I make gay jokes, I make trans jokes, but also I belong to these groups. When you're a part of, when you are not, and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to joke about these people and I don't give a shit that they're being murdered on the daily, that's a different story. Anyways, that's my opinion.
I think there's a reason in repressive societies in Turkey, Egypt, Iraq, Russia, why comedians are, and many other repressive authoritarian societies, why comedians are specifically attacked and silenced. Jokes have power, comedy has power, and yeah, maybe you make a good point. Lauren, I think I think before Lauren, I would just agree maybe that we should put this on the next agenda. I think at the last executive committee, we had talked about having this discussion at the general meeting, having another, I think we are in discussion as an agenda point after this discussion to talk about having a breakout session for anyone who might want to talk about this further, especially for those people who couldn't be here at tonight's meeting. And then having another executive committee meeting to kind of discuss and kind of digest. And of course, executive committee meetings are open for any general members who would like to come. Those meetings are of course always open for people to come to. And then I think we should put this on the next agenda. If for no other reason, then one, hopefully we can do some action items at the next agenda. And then officer elections, per our bylaws, officer elections, and that is for co-chairs, the two co-chairs, which may be an IR, vice co-chair, which is Lauren, and then of course the open secretary position. Per our bylaws, officer elections happen in January of every year. So we're gonna have to discuss about that, and hopefully we're gonna have some people step up to help put their imprint on this organization going forward.
Thank you, Max. Lauren, I see your hands up.
Yeah, thank you. So, Diana, thank you for those comments. That was as uplifting, I think, as you meant it to be. Having spent the summer actually mentoring queer and questioning kids, I can confirm you guys are all right. And I take that back because I said guys. You folks are all right. The amount of spirit and certainty and security in their identities was really heartwarming, and especially heartwarming for those who had their parents' support. That being said, I'd like, because we're getting towards the end, I gather, I'd like everybody to think about all these great ideas they've been celebrating, exactly how you as an individual are going to make it happen. Right? These things don't happen in and of themselves. They require intent and they require action. And I think that one reason I highlight recruitment is that it's a way for us to spread out with a already set presentation that Daniel designed. Plus we have the webinar that Jung and I gave to explain to people, and actually, as I like to do, to let them know that if things don't improve, I will be back. I am nothing if not relentless. Having said all of that, we can leave this with love. I mean, I know that sounds corny, but it actually, my granny used to say, you attract more bees with honey than with vinegar. And so keeping that in mind, we can do that good work, but it is work. Whether you get paid or volunteer, you're committed or not, And so I just want us to be thinking of that as individuals when we convene next.
Yeah, I think that we've had a really great discussion here tonight, and I think that what my plan tonight now is to kind of take these minutes, and again, if anyone would like to refer to the minutes, this is where I've been taking minutes. If anyone has, if you want to review that document, if anyone has changes or to anything that is particularly attributed to them, we'd be more than happy to make those changes. But I think what I'll do is I will synthesize these into a document, hopefully along with these and some of the ideas that we had in our executive committee meeting, I will synthesize them into kind of like bullet points and send them out to the Alliance members. I think next we need to discuss having hopefully a breakout session or some other kind of maybe even a special meeting. We can, you know, it's all semantics as to what we call it, to further discuss these ideas. And then I think really what I would just add on to what Lauren said, which is that what I would really ask for, and really almost, you know, I would beg even, is that we just make sure that we're all kind of walking the walk. I'm Jewish, and in Judaism we talk about praying with our feet, and that means you actually have to put this into action. You have to put your money where your mouth is, and so I would just really hopefully impress upon our members. You know, we have a number of members here who really do the work. I would just ask that all of us do the work, because the more all of us do, the less, you know, the some of us have to do who are doing kind of a lot. So let's talk now. Well, first, let me ask, does anyone else have any other items that they would like to, or any other ideas or any other thoughts or discussion items that they would like to put forward? I really do thank all of you for being so open and really kind of making this the great discussion that we were kind of hoping that it would be. Lauren, please, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, so I'm not a big holiday person. In fact, I'm a Grinch, but maybe we should consider doing something that is convivial and not necessarily work oriented in the very near future. The theme I'm hearing throughout is that people miss interacting personally with one another, and those of us who were at the summer get together had a really good experience. So I think, you know, with all the other things, including COVID, maybe we should start talking about planning such a thing, and then where we would have it. You know, I think that would be it would be something to look forward to and celebrate, even if you hate holidays. Like, well, I don't hate holidays, I hate Christmas, just to be clear. Thanksgiving I love.
Thank you, Lauren. I think that's a wonderful idea. Let's make sure that we bring that up at the executive committee meeting, just so that we can further talk about it and see how we might be able to get that going. I'm noting that Claire put comments into the chat, and I have put those into the notes. And then Chloe, yes, you make a good point as well. Okay, so I'm going to move us along because we're just over 2 hours, and I would like us to get out of here while we so we can all get sleep. I know a lot of us have to work tomorrow morning. So let's talk about this breakout session. At the moment, we have a proposed breakout session for this Tuesday, October 26th at 7 p.m. Is that too soon for people? Would people be able to make that, or would we like to push that a little bit?
Can you explain a little better what the breakout session is? Is it
It
different
would,
groups, or is it everybody together?
no, it's really, I should be calling it a special session for us to continue this conversation, to further develop and continue. I would want it, I think, hopefully to be on a weekday. That way, those people who couldn't make it because it was a weekend, I know that we have a number of members who can't make it to weekend meetings. So hopefully we could, I just want to try and be inclusive of everyone's schedules.
Max, I wanted to say, while I'm available, I think it's a little too soon, especially
I would agree, I think,
I want to do outreach to folks who weren't able to make it tonight. So I would say next Tuesday, like the following at the earliest, or even the Tuesday after that. But I like the idea of a weekday, especially since we've been doing Sunday meetings lately.
I think Tuesday or even Wednesday. Terry, I see your hand is raised. Well, there we go.
Okay, so when I initially proposed the breakout session, my idea behind it was that we would have a lot, that the Alliance would have a lot more participants in attendance, you know, something exceeding maybe 20, like not like a dozen, because like with a dozen people in attendance tonight, I don't know if there's a strong need for a breakout session. The idea behind breakout sessions generally is that there's a large quantity of people in attendance, so much so that like not everyone gets a chance to express their voice. But I mean, the idea behind these type of sessions is that they should be highly promoted so that people that can't make the General Alliance meeting can find a way to make their way to these breakout sessions. The idea was that was going to be the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee's next meeting, was hosting this breakout session, because by hosting this breakout session, it's a way of allowing more inclusion and equity of voices to be expressed. So when I proposed the breakout session, that was my thinking behind it. But being that I'm no longer a member of exec, I feel that y'all should just go forward with however you think it makes the most sense. I don't really have any ideas beyond the initial concept behind it.
Okay. So then I would hope that we would have this as a special breakout session, because as Terry said, we don't have that many members. I really hope, I had hoped that we would have more than 12 members here. I think all of you can attest to the fact that we sent many emails and we reached out in many different ways to hopefully get people here. I'm really grateful for those of you who did come to this meeting. So I think we will call it a special session, especially seeing as how we no longer have a Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee that is active. We don't have co-chairs for that committee at the moment. So why don't we just go ahead and say that the meeting will be, instead of this coming week, we will do it next week. Does anyone have particularly strong feelings? I know, Lauren, you said Tuesdays don't work for you. It looks like we have 2 votes, both Lauren and Chloe, for Wednesday. So I'm happy to do it on Wednesday. I can attend. I'm out of work at the moment. So I'm seeing nodding heads. I'm just going to go ahead and say we don't have to vote on this. I think maybe and I as co-chairs can call a meeting, a special meeting. I'm going to say Wednesday, November 3rd at 7 p.m. Do you want to say 6:30? Diana, go ahead.
Unrelated, but like that week's the week I submit my early decision applications for college.
God bless. Good luck with
Thanks.
And Max, I just my governing board meeting is on the first Wednesday of each month at 7. So that day really doesn't work. I mean, unless it's much earlier, but I would like to be present.
Other?
I can do
Thursday.
Thursday.
Work for everyone?
The 4th, yeah. Sorry.
Chloe, Lauren, or any other members? Please, I would like some, or thumbs, just give me a thumbs up.
I'll try.
Or
Sorry.
digital thumb.
I'll try.
Thank you, Chloe. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't know what my schedule is. I'm filming.
I like the idea of doing a, and again, the idea for this session is hopefully that members who weren't able to be here today would also be able to come to continue this discussion. And then again, this will be on our next agenda, which will be our next general meeting is tentatively at the moment, it's November 28th, although that's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. So we may have to pull it up. But that's the next agenda item. So for now, we're going to say Thursday, November 4th. Thursday, I'm writing this into the meeting. Thank you. Thursday, November 4th at 6:30. Thursday, November 4th at 6:30 p.m. And then we will, I like the idea of sending out a survey, but unfortunately, we don't have a really good track record of filling out surveys in the Alliance. So I think we just should call something. And then the executive committee, again, remember also, we'll be discussing this in the next executive committee meeting as well. And that meeting is open for everyone to come to as well.
And
So
what's
that's
the date, Max, of the exec meeting?
the next agenda. We're going to figure that out.
Okay.
We don't have a set day like we do for the Alliance Generals. Moving on to future meeting items, which maybe are you jumping back in at this point, or am I doing this?
Yeah,
Oh, no, you're doing 9. Sorry, you're doing 9 and 10. I'm going to do 8. So
Yeah.
future meeting schedule. Next meeting is supposed to be Sunday, November 28th at 6:30 p.m. Are we okay moving it up a week to November 21st at 6:30 to avoid the holiday weekend? And I am going to ask for digital thumbs or physical thumbs to be raised. I don't really want to make this specific. I see two. Can I get more, please? Bueller. Okay, great. I see enough to make a choice here. Okay, so our next meeting is going to be if I can type. Our next meeting is going to be November 21st at 6:30 p.m. And again, well, nothing again. Next item is the executive committee. We don't have a date yet for the executive committee. I think we should do it after that meeting on the 21st, or after that meeting on the 4th. So I would propose either November 7th or 14th. We can also discuss this amongst the executive committee members and send this out to everyone, if that works for everyone. Maybe does that work for you? Instead of doing this date now, Chloe?
Yes, it's really up to you.
Adriana? Hayden? All members
Sure.
of the exec committee? Okay.
Sure.
John? Lauren? Okay.
If you could just email me all those lists, I'd like to put them up on the website next week.
Which lists?
The meeting of appointments
Oh.
that you just created.
Will do, and I'm writing them into the minutes as well.
Thank you.
Executive committee is TBD. Outreach committee is postponed indefinitely for lack of co-chairs. If anyone is interested in being a co-chair of the, as previously stated, Danny Deza, who was co-chair of the outreach committee, has resigned, and I am also no longer co-chair of outreach. DEI, as stated earlier, only had one co-chair. Terry resigned last week, so that is postponed indefinitely for lack of co-chairs. Government relations, the date, as far as I know, is TBD based on tonight's meeting.
Yes, so it's usually the 4th Sunday, but Adriana and I are going to try to catch up tomorrow, and we'll come up with a date.
Awesome. And
Yeah, we'll see if we can meet in November.
Yeah.
You know, it would obviously be the Sunday before the Thanksgiving holiday.
Awesome. And as a quick sidebar, Hayden and Adriana, again, I just want to thank you for, I know you two both think that you're not doing a lot, but you really are doing a lot as the chair co-chairs of this committee. And I really do thank you for the work that you're doing in government relations. Recruitment committee, as stated earlier, Daniel Perez has resigned as co-chair, and Chloe is currently co-chair, but from what I remember, Chloe agreed to be co-chair of that committee because Daniel was there kind of helping to lead the way. So really, if anyone is interested in being co-chair of recruitment, please help step forward and join that. And then Chloe, do you know if you have another date for recruitment at the moment, or are we TBD
No,
on
I
that
mean,
as well?
I'm such a small chair. I mean, Danny was
Yeah, so we will we'll touch base with you about that as
somebody will join me, because
Yeah.
we have a lot of work to do.
yes, and maybe and the rest of the exec committee will touch base with you as well about that, and we will hopefully be able to help you out.
You know what we might be able to do, Max and
Yes.
Chloe? Because this is what we do at our neighborhood council. We have like we stack 2 or 3 committee meetings. So then that way we can support each other. And since
Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap, if you'd consider potentially, I know you've attended our government relations meetings, and since now you're the co-chair, that if you'd like, and I'll talk to Hayden, maybe we can talk between the three of us to coordinate, so then that way yours follows ours like it did before, because Daniel had scheduled something like that at least 2 or 3 times that I recall. So if that's something you'd like to consider, I don't want to speak for the
Thank you
committee
very
yet.
Yeah, I just need to talk to people about how to continue doing this. So any support.
Yeah, I think I would also be comfortable, and I feel like maybe would agree that you guys could meet in joint, as a joint meeting. So it could be a joint meeting of government relations and recruitment, if that's, what it takes to have productive time together.
So point of information, unlike a lot of people, I've had my hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry about
so
that.
what I had just wanted to remind you of, Max, since I have been doing regular visits to NCs, I'm happy to step into the role of co-chair for recruitment.
Yay.
I actually texted you about that a while back, maybe like more than a week, when we were still getting over the shock. Paired meetings does not work for me at this point because there's a lot I don't know, but I'm happy to discuss it going forward. So Chloe, if you want to work together, shoot me an email and let's discuss.
Well, I will do that, Lauren, and it's going to be a good work group. I mean, a good, how do you say that? Association, because I always really like what you have to say. So
Thank
that's
you.
great. So I just have a question to the other committee. Do you meet in person or do you meet electronically?
We meet on Zoom.
I
On
don't
Zoom?
think we have any in-person anything at the moment.
Okay. All right, Lauren. thank you.
And Lauren, thank you for, if you texted that to me, I'm sorry, but it may have slipped my mind. It's been as you know, it's been a very busy 2 weeks for all of us in leadership on this alliance.
Can we nominate Lauren now?
It's not on the agenda, so I would be more comfortable waiting till the next meeting to make sure that it is fully noticed. And then ad hoc committee on police relations. Jong, would you mind sharing that link once more in the chat? And I think it's going to depend. The next meeting of ad hoc committee on police relations is going to depend on the results of that survey. Am I correct?
Yes, that seems right. I will do that right now.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
And that's future meeting schedule. A lot of TBT. But also some progress, so that's good. Maybe, do you want to do our last 2 items?
Yeah, I'll do the last 2 items. I'm sorry, they're super simple, Max. Especially the last one. But item 9 is request for future agenda items. Does anybody here have any request for items that you would like to see at our next general membership meeting? If you can't think of it now, no worries. You can always email us. But if you know something now, we can add it now. I actually have something. I want to add, so I know that we recently decided to do Sunday meetings. Sundays have been a little problematic for me, and I know that we've received a couple of messages and outreach from folks saying, I can't come because it's Sunday. Whereas I feel like during the week, any given week, sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but there's something about Sundays where some people just can't make it. And I feel like that's impacted our membership over the past couple of months. So I want to put on our next meeting to rediscuss the idea of when we have our general membership meetings.
Okay.
Anybody else? I see Adriana.
I think one of the ways to be inclusive is, even though you can't make these meetings irrespective of when they're held, is if you create a video library on your website that you can host it. And I know that will be a future cost. this way, those that missed it could still participate and view it at their own pace and still feel like they're being in touch as to what is going on. And there are some members that just feel comfortable doing that and then participating and then troubleshooting, I'd say, as to when they want to make a specific meeting. And you can capture a lot of participation in that respect. Everybody has a different way of attending and being present and supporting, some financially, some with their volunteer hours, time, walking the line at a protest, or just being offline supporters, or even just speaking positively and spreading the word. So I'd like to identify that at a future meeting, at a general meeting, as to perhaps calendaring and participating in an event, or supporting an organization, a recurring event perhaps. So then that way you're always branding, you're marketing, and you're present. One of the things that I'd like to see on a personal level is agendizing, or like I said, creating a calendar on the website so that members know what meetings are available for them to attend. I know that's something government relations kind of had discussed, but it wasn't necessarily our purview to engage or implement. Offering the information of other meetings like Board of Neighborhood Commissioners or the LANC. I know Max has attended and you have too, maybe. So that there's always someone there from the Alliance, not necessarily speak of them, but to report back and say I was there. So maybe creating a sign-up sheet or something. I know that's a little convoluted for an agenda item, but you know, if we get volunteers at the end of this meeting, who's going to attend the LANC meeting on the first Saturday of November? I know Lauren's historically there often, but to give information back to. Yeah.
Technically, to just address that really quick, we technically have a calendar already. It's just not, it doesn't get updated.
Okay. So I guess
and I also think I'm gonna volunteer to be the LANC rep from the GWNC. So I'll probably be going to LANC more in the future.
Perfect.
Okay, that item is, I wrote that down. Sorry, maybe.
All right, thanks, Max. Thanks, Adriana. Anybody else have any future items for our agenda? Speak now, or I was gonna say forever hold your peace, but just email us.
Yeah.
If nobody has any other future items, then I'm going to the motion to call this meeting to adjourn. Second?
Seconded.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks so much, everybody. Thanks again for the robust convo. Send Max or myself or anybody else in the exec committee any ideas you have about, you know, future visions for the Alliance. Otherwise, stay tuned and we'll continue this conversation next time.
Bye.
Thank you
Bye.
all. Have a good night.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye, good night.
Good night.